Do you see the heat in the sun? Look at the ground.
Oh,
But
dude,
look at the ground to see the
that's the
sky.
roaster popping off, dude.
Look at the
That's money.
ground to see the
That's
sky.
literally money leaking out of the roof. Like, somebody call the contractor. We've got a leak in the roof. It's money.
Yep. That's what it is.
Take this card.
Oh, shut this down, Lee. Podcast number 38. 38.
Org charts.
This is what I'll do. Look at the camera. Or what if we started playing to the camera like this? Like, org charts. That'd be sick, dude.
You said, what if we did it? And then we literally just did.
Maybe we start doing that every time.
Let's talk about something completely different.
It happened again, dude.
Well, I'm actually kind of excited about what Andre was talking about, so it feels like it's very front of mind for me.
Yeah, well, I love things that are in the front of our mind because the back of our mind is where the stuff that lives there.
In terms of...
Like my eyeball.
So Andre, who is the roastery team leader, just went to Coffee Fest San Francisco.
Shout out Coffee Fest San Francisco.
Took the roastery team, had a great time. And I'm like, where are you at with events right now? You know, like, what's your desire to go to them? How do you feel about them?
I miss them, and I'd like to go to some. I had, I talked about it on when you were out. I talked about Australia on a podcast, but it was really refreshing to me to connect with coffee industry folk, and it had been a really long time. I haven't been to an event since before the pandemics, so I'm missing them. I'm not missing them the same way that I used to, but man, it was nice to talk about what we do and have conversations about it with people who really care about, this industry and business expression and creativity and coffee and all the shit that goes into it.
What would you be interested in going to that's not SCA? Like you said, you've never been to Coffee Fest. Would you be interested in going to Coffee Fest?
Yeah.
Or what are the...
Yeah, I would. Sorry, I was looking behind me. For those who are watching the video, there's a UPS truck coming up hot.
And
but
I
got plenty
needs
of space.
Worldwide services, it looks like they have them.
Yeah,
it says, so holy fuck.
So, here's the thing. Like, what I find, I've talked about it on other podcasts as well that we've shared, is that I end up finding fun and interest.
I got you, dude. I won't
in
let you
a lot
run for...
and a lot of things that maybe are not directly related. But Coffee Fest is one that feels similar to an SCA, but maybe more approachable, and also maybe more closer in proximity to people that work near you. So I feel like I see...
Like you engage more with the
different
local scene of what's happening.
Yeah, at least semi-local, right? Like one being in San Francisco means that there are people in proximity who may be able to come and experience our cafe or what we have to offer. And you might learn about somebody that you could easily get to, right? You go to SCA, wherever it might be, or Expo, and you're in a city where there's undoubtedly awesome coffee in some capacity. And then you talk to these people who you are going to be inspired by, but you're not really going to share an experience with them after that weekend. Probably 98% of them, because they're all around the world, so they're different things to me.
So if a local one, you can kind of keep up on. You're good with keeping up with people though. You're good at keeping up with people.
Pretty good
Sorry,
at
I'm really jumbled today.
I'm good at keeping connected. Today. I'm good at keeping connected in some capacity, right? Like people in the DMs, I'm not as loud like on Instagram per se about sharing all the things that are going on, but people do hit me up a fair amount in the DMs, and I most often times will respond to them and try to be helpful in some capacity. And yeah, there's a few people that like I sit on coaching calls with, one person regularly like for the last few months. So
like you're coaching them or they're coaching you?
No,
or
I'm coaching them.
You're coaching them.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that stuff, that's not exactly what you mean, but I do stay in contact, and I like to try to help when possible, because I enjoy that as long as I'm not, so overwhelmed that it's impossible or too busy.
Yeah. Because my thing with the coffee stuff is when I'm there, I'm all about it. It just feels so energizing, and then as soon as I leave, I have that week decompression period, and then I don't think about it at all.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's a different thing, and I'm really I just don't do a lot of that one-to-one, person-to-person contact stuff. Like I don't keep up with anybody, including some of my best friends.
Yeah, I mean, even I do struggle with that part too, with the keeping up. Like, I mean, I do enough, but not as much as I'd like to. I think that's always a thing. But I'm the same way too. Like, every time I go to Honduras, I get a little better at Spanish, and every time I leave, I'm like, I'm seriously going to do
Gonna learn
this.
Spanish. Yeah.
And I do things like, get Babbel and pay for it in advance and use it for like a week, and then I'm just like, turns out when you're a single dad business owner and you're trying to like stay healthy, you just use not a lot of time for that. So there could be, but I think there's only so much time in the day, and I end up putting my efforts, where they go, and
Right.
it's hard to do everything.
There's time, and then there's that feeling of, even if I have the time, there's a certain amount of mental energy I have.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I just can't.
Like, is there going to
fit
be a return on me
another
trying?
thing in it.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I've thought of that too. Because it would be really cool when Damien comes to, like, he shows up in the U.S. and
Which, by the way, Damien's gonna come visit in a year or so with his lady.
it'd be rad to just be able to have a full blown conversation with him.
So rad.
And then you're like, am I gonna put in, deep work for a year to make that happen?
Well, and it's not,
And
unfortunately, efficient work either. Like,
Yeah.
there's the efficiency work of knowing. Well, and a priority. Like, that's the other part. Like, I want to be able to communicate with people, and I like to be able to connect. And so in that way, it's like, oh, that feels like a really great reason to learn Spanish. And then there's all the other reasons that it could work in the day-to-day life. But then there's like, man, for the amount of time in that return being, I only go to Origin now once a year,
Mm-hmm.
Then that probably won't be as much my job. And in the long run, that's a lot of time to do a cool brain exercise. I like the brain exercise concept of it, but it's a lot of time to not necessarily apply something very much. And that's my
Right.
issue. Like, and it's always been my issue. If I don't have a reason to apply it, then I lose interest. And I think that's where events for me actually do work, is that I sit in this place where my mind goes to events, and either I see something or I have a conversation, and it usually sparks something that I bring back and put into play in some capacity, if not more than one thing. And so that is why, it's helpful for me. Getting out of the routine, getting into different places, my brain ends up putting puzzle pieces together in those places more often than it does if I'm in here looking at what we have going on all the time and like spinning my wheels on how to make it better, how to coach specifically. Like, you need that back and forth, and I need to change the scenery for eureka moments.
Like a fresh
Yeah.
fresh set of.
And because I can go to those places, right? I either get confirmation or whatever the case may be, but I usually do leave those places with a little bit more than like that senior vacation where you're just hyped out of your mind, and then you come back and like everything goes back to exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I come back and the energy's there, and then I have all these ideas, but
Yeah.
only about 5% of it sticks
Mm-hmm.
for some reason.
That's still good though.
It's pretty good. Yeah. For me, I think I load them up differently, where I'm less for me, it's less about those eureka moments.
Yeah.
And it's more about, I don't know what it's about, honestly. It's just about good energy, like this kind of let it go kind of energy that I don't get a lot here. Because even though we have things to do there and there's responsibilities, it feels completely different than the day-to-day coming to work, because you're getting energy pumped into you from all angles. There's, you see people you haven't seen for years. You see people who you respect. You see people who are asking you interesting questions, and and I'm just like, dang, how do I get that on the day-to-day? Like, how do I cultivate that on the daily?
Well, that's the thing, right? I think for me, that is what leads me to the eureka moments. Is I don't go in planning to have them, but you get that energy pumping, but you also get people speaking to you and asking you questions in ways that you aren't typically getting them asked at home or in your own business, right? So they're all coming at you asking like hows and whys, and they want all these clarifying examples of what we may do or how they may integrate it. And you get to kind of, at least from one example, is you get to go kind of back and forth and suggest what we do and why and how it might work. And then what happens for me is they'll tell me, well, here's what goes on and how we do it. And so what that usually leads to is the thing that I always love, which is like, how does this concept that I believe and we believe could probably live ubiquitously, which means everywhere, work when somebody runs their business in a different way than we do? And that's usually where there's some sort of new math and new logistics that elevate everybody. And so that happens, I think, a ton. Happens at literally nonstop at, expo, whether it's at dinner or not. And then the other best part about expo is you'll have those random dinners where you maybe have a couple drinks or you get a little loopy in some capacity and you're just laughing and cracking up with people that are the same thing, right? They're all jacked up on energy and they're in a place where they don't have to have responsibility that's super intense. And we get to just have some fun and chat about shit together and laugh about all those years.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Man. Oh, are you feeling like you want to go to an event right now? Is that what's happening?
No. I feel differently about different events. I don't know why. Like Andre's talking about Coffee Fest and he's talking about what's happening there and I'm feeling his energy.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's awesome and I'm so glad that he went and I'm so glad that he took the team.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm thinking, geez, I'm glad I'm not there. And it's something about, I think the thing that's keeping me from being excited about events that aren't something like SCA. SCA is just this huge thing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to SCA, I don't necessarily look at it in terms of what am I going to learn there as far as the content and of,
same.
speakers or anything.
Yeah.
I know that people are going to be there showing off their coolest shit, whatever that is.
Right.
Whether that's
trying to start a new trend.
There's a lot of new stuff going on, so there's a lot of people. So
Right.
kind of everyone's there.
Yep.
The smaller events, I'm just I see the panels and I see what the discussion, and I'm just like, I just don't even, that just seems so, I don't want to say base level to like hate on anybody, but I'm just like, dude, I can't sit through another one of these almost generic panel discussions about this, that. I just don't know. I think I'm craving something different. I feel like
probably are.
I feel like every event is catering to a specific audience, and no hate at all, but like I think Coffee Fest has generally, and it's changed. It's gotten better for sure, but I feel like it has generally been like the entry level.
Yeah, it's the other one.
Event. It's like really accessible, and there's a lot of things that are geared towards beginners. And I think that's great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like that's cool. I just don't know what I would do if I was there. I'd meet some really nice people, no doubt. I'd have some good conversations, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know.
Well, you probably want an elevated maybe is just the wrong word. I think potentially what is happening, and this is kind of what I also am looking at when I go to these things, is you're looking for what's the experience like, right? How are the details put together, whatever it might be, right? The content, what's the experience and how valuable, intentional, inspiring is it? And obviously I think and we probably would both get something out of most events if we like really look for it. Sure.
Yeah.
But like I think about it too in a couple ways, like a Coffee Fest, which again I have never been to. So we'll just say if I went to Coffee Fest, I would probably, aside from hoping for a cool interaction with some people that I know and maybe a surprise out of a speaker, sure, or something, I would be looking at things like what kind of intention, like what does this event feel like and look like? What do they do with the space? How was how did they put it together? And that's the stuff that I kind of look at. Is it just a bunch of booths? Did they, is it whatever? Is there intentionality? Does the whole place feel good? Is there cohesiveness? And, you asked earlier, what are some other expos? Like, I haven't paid for it, but I would love to go to D23, right? The Disney Expo, or like honestly, it'd be really interesting. And I'm not even a huge comic book guy, but to go see what like Comic Cons or some of these other ones are, right? Because that
would be interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I feel you.
That's where I'm doing this no matter what. I'm going in and going like, what can I learn from how somebody puts on an event? Because we put on some form of a show or experience everywhere we are. And that's, I think, where I can always learn. Like, other things I look at are how many people showed up to this and how well, in my opinion, is it done? And no matter what the event is, if I think that it could be done a shit ton better and there's a ton of people coming to it, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of opportunity. If this many people are willing to come to something that is this, and again, I'm not talking about any of the events out there. I don't have a baseline I'm speaking about, but if that's the case, that means that there is a need and an interest that we could lean into. And if that lines up with what we're about as a company, mission, values, vision, and how-tos, then that means that there's an opportunity for us to engage in that. So there's all this stuff happening in my mind when I'm there that I'm just kind of like looking at. I'm like kind of case studying and paying attention to weird shit like that. And I don't always talk about it. I just kind of like absorb it.
Sure.
So, I mean, that would be, I would love to go to D23. It's expensive. They tell.
How much is it?
Great question.
It's like thousands of dollars?
No, but it's not cheap. And I think they sell out. I think there's like pre-sale tickets. Let's find out.
It's not an invite only thing?
No. It's an expo, just like all of them. How much is D23? Why is it always called D23? It's presented by Visa, you guys, so you know it's good.
Ooh, big sponsor.
No, annual membership. Okay, so only D23 Gold members can purchase tickets for Destination 23. So you have to pay $99, $100 a year to even be in there, and then general admission is $330, basically $350. While preferred admission with closer seating during panels is like nearly $600.
Right, you got your levels.
So I mean, it's not cheap, not insanely expensive. Again, I don't know what to expect. All that I do know is that from the pictures, well, and the experience, they're obviously playing to a scale of this is how many people come, but they're getting, famous actors and actresses from all these movies that are coming out to come talk about them and tell you about what's coming in the future of film, parks, hotels, food. Like, it's a really interesting thing. And then obviously they're going to put energy into magic moments.
An entertainment expo.
Totally. And so I guess that's the thing too, is it's like you're clearly going to be not like you're going to be entertained, you're going to be informed, you're going to be stimulated. And you will do that at a lot of our coffee stuff too. Like there are people who are very interested in it, but it's usually not as like flashy and magical. Except for the people interaction. That's what makes it magical. Like the people interaction is what make it magical.
Well, because it's most of them are built around the basic trade show model.
Yeah.
And a trade show is a trade show, whether you go to...
Yeah, they're all...
Expo West isn't too different than Coffee Fest.
Yeah, probably
where
not.
You have booths and things, and then there's some people doing weird stuff, and then there's some classes. It's kind of like a copy-paste model. It's almost like the model's based around... There's some sort of trade show model that's not based around what you're going to get while you're there, but basically the idea that you don't want to be left out.
Yeah.
Whereas like the content and the experience is secondary to the whole reality that everyone in the industry is going to be there.
I was there.
You better go.
Yeah.
And if you don't go, even if you wouldn't have learned anything from a class or saw a new product that you want to get or didn't even have a friend, you would feel like you missed out if you didn't go. So I think there's some magic in creating something like that. Not like that's the goal, but I think that's a lot of what these trade shows in general, like, that's how they operate.
Yeah.
Like, that's the pull.
For sure.
Maybe the Disney one's like a higher level because they're going to lean into an experience. You couldn't really be Disney and have a generic trade show.
Sure.
It wouldn't match up with the brand,
Yeah.
right? But like if you look at something like SCA, they don't have like a big experiential promise that's associated with their brand.
Sure.
They're simply the Specialty Coffee Association.
Right. And those
they have a mission statement, but it's not based around show and pizzazz. It's based around coffee. I don't even know what it is, but I've read it before, right?
I've read it, yeah. Well, I mean, you think about that too, right? You're like, the Concours d'Elegance is like an expo of sorts for cars. People will kind of figure out what that's going to look like. Really fancy cars and showcasing some of the future of things, right? I don't even know enough about that one, but or other car stuff you've gone to, right? I mean,
well, I think you're tapping into what it is because there's it's like, who's it for? What's it for?
Sure.
And like maybe it's just to show up and show off. Like maybe it's just getting the right people in the door, and maybe 10% of the people there are actually kind of interested in buying a car, but for everybody else, it's like I paid the entry fee and I'm a part of this because it's the social situation I want to be in.
The marketing too.
It's like being with the people who are doing things. Like
for sure.
Like these are the people.
Yeah.
And that's it's interesting.
There's a win there.
No, yeah,
I consider
I
that
don't
a win
think
for
that's
me, right?
I don't think that's bad
No,
necessarily.
for
I
sure.
just think it's something that maybe a lot of people could easily overlook, where they feel like they're ignoring the affiliation aspect of everything, and they're saying like, cool, like really what I'm offering is just simply the knowledge or the the coursework, but that's not really it at all. There's like a bigger, it's the social connection piece that brings us all together.
Absolutely.
Because everything we do, whether we want to or not, we're kind of looking at like, oh, status, affiliation, who's in, who's out, or like, who am I in with?
Right. Yeah. And those connections are, if you leave with more new connections or like a new friend or like a better formed relationship, that's something I think everybody can feed off of no matter what. And that's always fun. And you definitely come to talk to people that are connected to the same stuff you are too. And everybody likes to feel like they're a part of something. So there's a lot of value in that alone too. Giving just a space.
Yeah.
Space to explore. Just explore the space.
It's no different than a cafe where you build a cafe and you would say that your doors are open to all. But if you went to 4 different cafes that are wildly different, you'd see 4 different groups of people there. Like there's the different cafes kind of attract and curate their own customer base, even though there is some sort of crossover. Where it's like, I'd say even though we share probably, let's say 20% of customers, like the 11th hour crowd is different than our crowd.
Sure.
Is different, way different. We're closer than either one of us would be to, let's say, the Santa Cruz coffee roasting crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
So every business, every entity, every event, you're kind of curating the people that you want to be there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Expo because that's the only one I've been to, right? And I think there's also something that I can't compare, which is at Expo, you have all these booths, right? And they're all kind of selling something or hoping to get sales because they're there, right? They're either showcasing a product or a service or whatever, machinery. It doesn't really matter, but that's kind of a big part of it. And so I'm wondering too, like I brought up D23, is that even a part of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure it has to be in some capacity, but maybe it's not, like Expo West, sure. Right. Like, that's the food one. So I imagine there's going to be whatever, all the solutions to cleaning supplies and that stuff is, all these vendors are going with an intent as well, right? Which is to, whatever, get more sales, gather more relationships. Like they're going to come out of it with the ROI on spending that money. But I wonder about, like the car shows. Obviously, there's got to be a monetary factor. But with the Disney one, I'm like, is that monetary return really just going to be on like, there's going to be a ton of merch and a ton of things that are going to be getting people hyped to just buy because they went to the event,
I think that's what it is.
Right?
It's like even at Expo for us, I still feel like it's not necessarily a direct sales play. It's sales through the awareness of this is cool.
For sure.
I think La Marzocco does a great job with this. Actually, they
shout out.
They will often make things that I'm pretty sure they know aren't going to work in the real world and don't need to work in the real world. Like, for example, the Leva, that lever machine, the new modern lever that I don't know, it's probably like 8 years ago now. When they came out with that, it's just, you want to stand by it and take a picture, and it gets you talking about the brand, and maybe 5 shops and anywhere use it.
Yeah, and you like to play with it for sure.
It's just not practical, but that's not what it's for. It's not to get you to buy that thing. It's to remember La Marzocco. We do things that are interesting and awesome. And I'm pretty sure that D23, that was when in that Into the Unknown, like the making of Frozen 2, that's where they had the cast members do that live. Didn't they do a live? They did one of the songs live.
Like for sure.
The people there, which is that same kind of flex. It's like, dude, I watched freaking Kristen Bell singing on stage at D23.
Live.
Like,
it's a cool moment.
I'm going to remember this movie that I haven't even seen yet. I don't even know what it looks like for the rest of my life. And Disney does stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what everybody is showing off. And everyone's got a different level of promise, right? Some, like the packaging people, they have a much more mellow promise, right? Where you can see, you go to the packaging booth and it's just very like cut and dry.
Sure.
You see people's art, but they're basically saying like, hey, we can make what you need and we can make it in a timely manner.
Here's all the different styles.
Here's all our cool technology that we can use to do it.
Yeah.
But it's not super inspirational. Like, but you don't really need it to be.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know.
I feel that.
And that was like, I forget his name already. I'm doing bad, but the gentleman from La Marzocco who was in the shop today. I remember you were on a cyclocross race. I remember you were hucking it through the mountains. I remember you went to Bonnie Doon. I just forgot your name.
Remember, you're tall and you have a beard.
He's all, how do you like your Strata? I was like, we love it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that's not a helpful feedback kind of answer, but you'd be hard pressed for us to even consider buying a machine from another manufacturer.
Oh, absolutely.
Just based off of everything you do, you know?
Yeah.
So there's that. Whether it's a Strata or whatever.
Pretty good feedback for someone.
Whatever else it is like, keep doing things like that because I remember that shit and I value that stuff. I value the exploration even if I'm not going to buy that particular machine.
Yeah, dude.
You know, same thing with the Strata EP. It's like we played with it. It wasn't for us, but I value the exploration.
Right, and the new updated version of that, I'm also blanking on the name. But it just came out as well. Why am I blanking on the name?
I don't know. I forgot either.
The Strata McLaser. Anyway,
Strata McLaser.
That's, I think, what it's called, if I'm not mistaken.
Back to the Strata future.
Back to the McLaser. I really want to play with one of those. And having one and having us use it the exact same way as our current machines can work, and then being able to play with the other stuff would be really fun too. So I totally back that. Thanks, La Marzocco. Let's go.
Thanks, La Marzocco.
But you're right. Like sometimes you get to an event and you get to experience a moment like that, and it kind of further clarifies or just helps you remember, like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And even again, back to the people, I've always had great experiences with all my La Marzocco friends, and that's rad. And it feels good to see them.
That's like, yeah, that just got me thinking about marketing budgets.
Yeah.
And spending marketing money because, you're talking about a trade show. A traditional business model would say, well, maybe not even, but a generic business model would say, cool, if we spend X amount of money on this thing, we'd expect to book X amount of units right there. But it wouldn't really work like that. You're like, we're going to spend $30,000 doing this thing. And then over the course, if we do that every year, if we go to every event, keep doing that over the next 6 years, we hope to sell X many machines. Like the long play is just super.
Yeah.
And it's not even a sales play. It's a bigger cultural play that is directly connected to a sales play. Anyway. I'm over the edge now, dude.
Over the edge and over again. That's a Pirates of the Caribbean line. Well, man, I feel like that's been a great conversation.
You want to go get those Cambros going, don't you?
I want to get those Cambros going for my...
What are you doing? Tell everybody.
Don't
downplay it. Come on.
I mean, it's a mellow hang, dude. Taste of the Warriors. It's a G League Warrior experience. There's just a bunch of vendors who go in and honestly just hand out samples and socialize for a couple hours. So Eli and I are gonna go be a couple Cambros of some iced coffee. We're gonna make a couple mixed drinks. One's gonna be kind of a play on, White Russian, and the other one's gonna be a play non-alcoholic on gosh, I don't know, a coffee cocktail, a really simple one, loosely based off of this drink called the Missile that we made back in the day at Verve. But we're just gonna go serve some stuff, say hi, high five people. The marketing team's put together some merch for us to hand out and some information about our company, which is supposed to be ready by tomorrow, and that's gonna be it. We'll set up a table, we'll put the stuff, we'll bring some ice, load up a Cambro with some alcohol and coffee, load up another Cambro with coffee, and pour some drinks and high five some people. And the Warriors players will be there too. So, at the end of the day, it's a social interaction. I think it'll be fun. There's probably like 40 vendors. It's not a huge location because it'll all be on the court. And I think, it's later in the day, so I don't expect a ton of people to be interested in coffee. That's why I did a coffee alcoholic cocktail. Most of them are going to be trying beer and wine and cider and there's a lot of alcohol vendors.
Yeah.
So,
And what makes you want to do that? Like, what do you?
It's a little bit of just a friendly, it's local interaction, but it's also a little bit of a friendly favor. I hang with some of the people who work for the G League Warriors. We play basketball on a team together. He's been asking for, I don't know, I think he's asked me twice. This will be the third year, and I figured at this point, I know enough people who kind of go to those games and who will be at that event. And again, I think it's good for us to interact in some capacity with other, our community. And there's not a lot of opportunities to do that. So there'll be a bunch of other local businesses will kind of be in there, and they'll be able to see some faces behind our brand. And again, same thing. Like I want to get in there and say, okay, here's a little shot at a super mini event where we're not going to go over the top. I'm looking to just do something really simple, but have it taste really good, and then kind of calibrate to see like where we sit based on the amount of energy that I'm able to put into that event versus everybody else. And I'm kind of going into it a little bit, case studying a little bit, like, let's see what happens. That's it for now, And yeah, it's always weird when something's like hanging. You're all, well, I got to get this event planned out, and it doesn't require a power. It doesn't require an espresso machine. Like it's in that context, it's the most simple event I've ever done.
Yeah.
But it's also local. And the other ones, you're far away from here. So it's like, no matter what, people are going to like your vibes. Same thing will happen here. I'm going to hear a lot more about who we are in their eyes tomorrow night. So I'm just going to listen and be nice, hand out drinks to people, see them all get overly faded, most of these locals, and
be fun.
Yeah.
With Eli?
With Eli, dude. And Eli's
super fun.
Eli's great. We're going to have a good time. Yeah. Maybe Mark, but we'll see. TBD.
Mark, dude, whatever.
It's fine, dog. So yeah, I'm gonna go get those Cambros. I'm gonna rinse them all out, and then honestly, there's not a lot. It's weird. There's not a lot to like prep.
Are you making everything bulk, like batch brewed before? Like bulk?
Yeah, like I'm gonna Well, no,
bulk
I'm gonna
cocktail, like kegged cocktail style, or are you?
So my plan is this. Like my plan is to do the two Cambros of cold coffee.
Yep.
Which is probably way more than we need, and then I'll get ice on the way and fill up a ice chest with ice, right? And so every cup's gonna get it's 8-ounce cup. Fill it up all the way with ice. Like half of it with cold brew, which will fill up a lot, and then a shot of alcohol or syrup or cream or the combination. Shot. Full cup. Hand it to him. Here's
Does
some
the missile
merch.
thing have rum in it or what?
No, that's the non-alcoholic. That's just gonna be straight up like some vanilla, some cold brew, some cream, all blended together, all nicely.
Think about a missile with rum, dude.
It'd be delicious.
So good.
I mean, there's always a chance. I got some Irish cream and whiskey because Irish cream is already creamy whiskey, so it'll be like Irish cream, a little whiskey, a little half and half, and cold brew, and people will be like, and I'll be like, yeah, and it'll basically be their new vodka Red Bull. And I haven't had our coffee with a cocktail, so that'll be kind of fun. You know what I'm saying? Like really doing like cold brew. I'll probably do night shift for one, and anyway, TBD what I'm gonna pick because
that reminds me of another local flex. I went to pick up a Bookie's Pizza.
Yum.
And the Vanilla Joe at Santa Adarius, legendary brewery in Santa Cruz, has our coffee in it.
Hell yeah!
So if you're one of those coffee beer people, Vanilla Joe, Santa Adarius.
Santa Adarius is so good.
Supposed to drop some by that. Dude, I bought a bottle of I can't remember what, and
one of the Saisons?
Yeah. Whee! I had to, because I don't drink that much beer, I had to stop myself from like chugging the whole like 32 ounces.
No, the Saisons
like,
there are
so good.
They have some bangers.
Yeah, I couldn't even believe it. It'd been a long time since I had a proper
beer.
Yeah.
Ever since you stopped drinking all them Belgian ales, man.
Really got to try that Belgian ale.
Really got to try that Belgian ale.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know, or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. Dive deep into one of our single origin coffees or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places, YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.